Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by PlayPicks and Alliance.com. I'm your host today, flying solo, Nate Weitzer on the East Coast as Josh Lander flies back to the West Coast, back after an event in Atlanta. And we will be back on schedule with our normal show to close out the NBA, the regular season on Friday, actually. This is a 7-game slate on Thursday, as we have a couple of premier Eastern Conference matchups to look at tonight. As always, please like and subscribe to the page. And if you do need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to ftpicks.com or dkpicks.com. Find those listings in your local area. In this one, we're going to look at the Celtics at Bucks, which is a very intriguing matchup. Both teams very much playing for something, with the Celtics leading the Bucks by half a game for that second seed in the East. Celtics open at +5 on the road here as they come off a win in Chicago, and the total at 227.5. Interestingly, both these teams beat down Chicago by about the same score this week, as Chicago is now something like 1-19 against the top teams in the NBA. We're quickly looking at the other 6 games on the slate. We got Magic +13 at the Hornets. The Sixers are -1.5 at Toronto. Total's 220. That is the other game I'll break down for you here. The Blazers +17 at Pelicans. Spurs +8.5 without DeJounte Murray at Minnesota. That total just keeps rising to 141. The last time they played, we did have a 60-point game from Karl Anthony Towns and a total that hit 278. But without Murray, I think you like the under a little bit there. I think you also might want to tease it with the Wolves to get them down to -4. I like the Wolves there at home. Grizzlies without Dillon Brooks or John Morant +4.5 at Denver. I like them to cover there, I think, but it is a little bit questionable since they're locked into their seed. Don't know what kind of effort we'll get. And then the Lakers, who were just eliminated, are +12 at the Warriors. Nothing to see there. Celtics and Bucks, though, I really like this game. I really like both taking the points with the Celtics and taking the over, because we've been talking about for several games in a row with both these teams. I want to take the over. They're playing so well on offense, but I'm not sure if the other team's going to come along. We like their team total. Well, now they play each other. So, I mean, you're not worried about matching points in terms of the ridiculous efficiency that each of these teams bring. Celtics still sporting that 128 offensive rating over their last 10, averaging 124 points, league high 29.5 assists, league high 16.7 threes at 43%. They're 1 under against Miami because Miami is one of the only teams that can guard them. Milwaukee's a little bit better defensively now, but with Brook Lopez back, still not going to shut down this Celtics team. And I mean, you just have to look at recent history to prove that. They've gone over in 7 of their last 8 with the Bucks. Those games have averaged nearly 236. Celtics scoring 119, allowing 117 to the Bucks. Competitive games for the most part this season. Celtics have taken 2 of the 3. First time out, no Giannis or Middleton, no Jaylen Brown. Second time out, Middleton just back from COVID had 4 points. That game went under because Middleton was scuffling. And then the third time out, Giannis leads a comeback on Christmas as he came back from COVID. He is at 36 points. I mean, it's all 2021 stuff, kind of irrelevant when you talk about the Celtics, such a different team now in 2022. Mainly just the way they share the ball. It's incredible how good the quality of shots they're able to get. You look at their last 6 road games, 44% of their attempts are coming from downtown, and they're hitting 42.5% of those. Again, the high clip, scoring 121, and they're 8-2 straight up in their last 10 road games. They did go under against Chicago. That is the other under in that 10-game span because the Bulls just couldn't come along. It's the same deal with the Bucks. That game barely went over because the Bucks were able to score 127. But again, that's to my first point. As long as the other team can come along, these teams will go over. A 227 is a pretty low total for them. So I'm talking about the Celtics' prowess from 3. The Bucks are a team that will give you threes all day, every day. They allowed the most 3-pointers per game this season, and that's 14.5. It's really spiked lately. In March, they allowed 16 threes per game at nearly 40% clip. Also allowed the most assists per game in March. Fewest free throw attempts, but that's not how the Celtics are scoring. They're scoring by unassisted field goals and by getting quality three-pointers. Again, that's why they've hit 17 threes per game in 8 straight meetings with the Bucks. That's a very high clip. They had 20 threes in one of their recent meetings. And then on the other end, the Celtics, they limit your assists. They limit your paint points, although that has climbed without Robert Williams. I got to start there because Rob is probably the key. I mean, he is the key for their defense. The reason they were just shutting teams down and going under a little bit. And part of the reason that now they've gone over in 8 of their last 10 is he's been out for 6 of those games. In their last 7, their defensive rating about 115 without him, or was 115 before that Chicago flop brought their defensive rating down a little bit. But Rob is absolutely the most key guy in terms of guarding Giannis, in terms of the secondary line of defense, the way he plays help defense to keep Giannis out of the paint. But interestingly, the Bucks are not scoring in the paint on the season. They're 24th in paint points. That's up to 4th in their last 3 games, though, as they did get Brook Lopez back and are starting to score a little bit more. I mean, they just have an interesting diet of points. It kind of comes from all over the place, not completely dependent on any one thing. They are hitting better from 3, and the Celtics showing some cracks from the 3. But as we know, Milwaukee is a champion, and they figure out ways to score. I mean, some of their offensive numbers lately, their last 10 home games, 122 offensive rating, 6-4 to the over in that span. But those games are all going to high totals. It's just that they haven't necessarily hit the assigned total. The only games that went under 230 in their last 10 against the conference have come against the Wizards and those Bulls, who, again, let the Celtics down if you took the over there last night by not even getting to 100. Bucks have won 9 straight against the East. So, I mean, it is certainly winning time for these champs, but I don't think you're going to discount the Celtics in terms of being able to compete in this game. And if you're following this, I mean, the Bucks' last 2 wins, key wins. I'm again tossing the Bulls out as a contender, just dumping all over the Bulls in this episode. Their last 2 key wins against the Sixers and Nets, 1-point wins, basically 1 possession wins. I definitely don't see them beating the Celtics handily here. Look, the C's played last night, but only Jaylen Brown played over 30 minutes. And so there should be plenty rested. They have pretty good record on a rest disadvantage this year, recently on back-to-backs, no real issues. So, I mean, the last thing I'll say is you might want to look at the live betting angle here. The Celtics have been lights out defensively early, but they actually score the 3rd most points in the 3rd quarter. The Bucks give up the most points per game in the 3rd quarter. So either live betting the over, if it is dipping a little bit below 227, I don't think it will. I think you just slap that all the way up to 230 before this game starts. Or you think about taking the Celtics in a comeback here in Milwaukee, at least to cover. I'm really not sure, where we'll be at halftime, though. The Celtics have been such a good first half team lately that really I think what you want to do is get your money in before this game starts here at Celtics +6 and the over can get you great odds here. You can even tease that if you're slightly uncomfortable with the 6 or with the total. I don't see any way they lose by double digits. And I don't think this game will have much trouble going over 223. As I mentioned, the last 8 meetings between these teams averaged 236. The Bucks finally have their big 3 all clicking on the same page here. Defense showed some strength, but then lately collapsing against the Clippers and Mavs before bouncing back against, one more time, those backsliding Bulls. So that is all the time we have for today. Please check for the other 2 videos we'll put up tonight. The Sixers and the Raptors in another great Eastern Conference matchup, and then our player props video, which I will bring to you solo here. And as always, happy betting.